This is a great day, our day after our, I don't know, there's so much going on, Brian, that I think we could go for about 2 hours or longer today. But yesterday I went for an hour and 15 minutes with Nick, and a few people said that was too long.
Yeah, I think we need to keep it under an hour. I do have something else I need to do. So,
Okay, all right. Well, let's see if we can really get to the critical issues. Nvidia just beat, but only by a little,
mhm.
down a few percent. But Tesla went down also, and none of the other Magnificent Seven are down along with Tesla. Is that just completely um, unrelated? What's going on with Tesla being down $4? Or no, yeah, $4, I guess it is overall today.
Um, Tesla's kind of bumping along the top of a channel. So, not getting past 360 or 355. So it's kind of like having higher lows, but not making the higher highs yet. So punching through 360 opens up, the path to like 400, 420, 450 kind of thing, because there's a lot much trading volume there, right? So basically, um, any little um, headwind buffet of like, okay, Nvidia didn't blow it out, so there's not a overall AI boom going happening. So let's, pull back on the risk on like Tesla or Bitcoin or something like that. So let's pull back a little bit.
Yeah,
So it was looking for any excuse to try and trade down towards the bottom of its range, is my read of what's happening.
right. Of course, we did have quite a run up.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of potential for folks that would be saying, "Oh, I could maybe take a little profit here."
Right.
Like you say, any excuse will do.
Yeah.
So on a more fundamental take, it might be just, okay, I'll take some profits and jump back in later. I
Hmm.
tried that a few weeks ago. It didn't work out that well for me.
Right.
And not only that, everybody's still giving me stuff about it weeks later. So I don't know.
Right.
Maybe
Hmm.
I'll never do that again if I care what people think.
Right.
Some days I do. All right. So how come Nvidia is down a little? They did beat, and
Hmm.
they did, mention about their issue with China, that they didn't, in the entire quarter, they didn't send them any of the primary chips, and maybe in the next quarter they won't either. And they got nothing in their plan right now for selling them chips in the next quarter. So that's all known. So why are we down?
I just think that they need to really blow it out for it to move up. They already had some move up, so they're expecting, okay, you will really shock and surprise us for the actual numbers and for the call. Not having more uncertainty, like if they didn't even guide that they would definitely sell China chips in Q3, it's kind of like concerns in the US and in China about whether to take China will buy chips from Nvidia because they need to make, a H20, a more crippled version of H100, and a B20, a more crippled version of the B200. Um, and that would be 13%, 20% more sales.
Hmm.
So it's not insignificant if that was to happen. But in general, it's just we need to um, be more surprised as to how good the AI trend is for people to buy more. Because already it's up. It's like 4.4 trillion, right? So.
So of course we're probably missing the call right now, but there was nothing in their notes that indicated there was any new, additional product announcements. They just
Mm.
made the product announcement a couple of days ago about their robot chip, uh, which is only $2,500 or whatever. Are you going
Right.
to build some robots, Brian?
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely going to build robots. They're building
No,
stuff.
you. Are you going to
Oh,
build some robots?
no, 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 I'm not going to build
$2,500, man. You
robots.
can
No,
get in the robot business.
no, no, I'm going to get the robot. No.
Okay. Yes. You think they'll build robots also, though? You think they're going to physically get
Well,
it?
they will sell them to other people, and
Build
then
them.
they'll probably make some of their own just as, if people don't, if other companies don't pick up the slack, and they think, okay, it's only Tesla, then they have to make their own versions of stuff. So they do make their own LLM models. So I could see them doing some work there.
All right. Well, okay. So you think Tesla will break through the 360 and go back into the 400 somewhere? Of course, we both have a
But that
very
could be in a few weeks. Like it could be
yes.
squeezing for a little while before it gets there.
Something like, for instance, maybe will have a much better number on October 2nd than anybody projected.
Right.
What do you think about this IRS impact, the change of the rules? Are you expecting so I've heard numbers as many as 50 or 60,000 more units in 2025 as a result of that. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right, that they would have, several tens of thousands more, even from the extending out the same 500 credit past September 30th, where if you get the sale locked in, then you can actually pay for it, well into Q4. So that will help them sell up to the last minute on that. So that will be good for them. So I'm thinking very good chance over 500,000 sales in Q3, some more sales in Q4, and then I think general end of year strength should see maybe 2 quarters over 500,000.
Wow.
Especially if they come out with the compact Y, which I've been thinking that was going to happen.
Do you think I've asked both Larry and Nick this over the last two nights? Do you think that the Model Q for the U.S. might be put back now because of the factories maybe being near capacity just with the additional Model Ys that they're going to be, and they also have maybe the Performance 3 coming out?
I was always expecting the compact Y to be in China. That would be where um, is the most value there. So I would expect, just like they're selling the YL there first, then they'll sell the YS there first. And I think that China's factories have the capacity to nearly double their production.
Oh,
So I'm expecting that to be where it's going to be. And then, it said that the compact Y may not, the YL and the compact Y may not come to the United States because of focus on the cyber cab and the other
mhm.
automation related vehicles. So I was looking for something to be announced and to be introduced in China and then maybe introduced in Europe,
Mhm.
because those are where cheaper cars are far more important, right? Because in the US, we tend to buy big SUVs, big trucks, and having a smaller, lower price vehicle, while good, is not as critical as it is for China and Europe and Asia.
Okay, so you could imagine that we'd be looking at first quarter before the compact car or whatever it's going to be, the stripped down Model Y would be available in the United States.
Yeah, yeah. I was not expecting it to be in the United States first. I was expecting a China and a Europe thing, Q4 ideally, and so we'll, in terms of the US, it would be like a couple of months at least after those introductions, is my expectation.
Okay. The Model YL apparently is a huge hit in China. We now have some reporting that it might be doubling the total number of orders in the next quarter for China. That also would make the 500,000 more realistic, more probable, especially for the fourth quarter.
Right. Yeah, so that's where I'm expecting those new models to have the biggest impact. China and then Europe, and then less so for the United States.
And then we've got the lower interest rate, which is almost, people have almost forgotten about that. In fact, I didn't even, well, I did include it in my list on Sunday morning of reasons. But so the lower interest rate is going to allow Tesla, combining everything, the way I see it. If I'm the product manager right now, I don't need to offer any interest deals anymore. I don't have to give the 1.99 or the
Mm.
99 or whatever
Right.
going for the rest of this year in
Hmm.
the United States
Right.
because A, I've got all this demand anyway,
Right.
and B, you can write off that interest rate now in the United States. So it's a big benefit to people that are in that tax bracket that typically can afford a Tesla. So that should allow the margins to dramatically increase during the next 30 days and also going all the way into the fourth quarter. So that margin advantage should impact on the 22nd or whatever day it's going to be of October. So that could be another a big surprise coming up.
Yes, yes, that should help a couple 2% maybe.
What are you thinking about in terms of the your expectations for delivery or for I know we don't call them deliveries, we call them uh,
Volume numbers?
well for energy
Oh,
for
for energy.
deployments. What are you looking at? What are you thinking October 2nd we're going to see on deployments?
Um, I would be disappointed if we're not over like 14 gigawatt hours, something like that. Yeah, it should be one lumpy. It should, stuff should come in. We should be getting some numbers in from the production from Shanghai,
Mhm.
um, and then the other production. So I think it should be higher by a couple of gigawatt hours, and then 16 gigawatt hours, something like that for Q4.
Okay. All right. Well, we're aligned on that one. I was thinking quarter four could even be higher, depending on the lumpiness, of course. But all right. All right. So Elon added to my. I'm the only one pushing this. I don't know anybody. Maybe you are, but I'm feel like I'm all by myself. Elon is going to do. He says he's got a plan. He's going to do something about the power problem in the United States. He's got a
Hmm.
plan. He
Right.
said that master plan, is this will be four? Master plan four?
Well, he talked about power in Master Plan 3,
Okay, but he's got to, so now but the next master plan would be master plan
V4.
four.
Right.
And he says he's working on that. He told us that a couple of months ago or a month or so ago. Now he's also said specifically that he's got a plan. And I know he wasn't talking about the previous plan. He said he was being coy. He says, I've got a plan to solve the energy problem in the United States. And I'm saying it's a solar gigafactory because he also said he was thinking about that and it was a good idea. What are you thinking in that whole? I mean, let me just add one more little piece to it. He's seeming to step up the wholesale and retail electric business also seeming
Hmm.
like he's putting more emphasis on that in Spain and England and Texas. There's other places now where it's starting to look like he wants to be in the retail energy business. Do you think so all in all, what do you think is going to happen in between now and the end of the year in terms of announcements are turning dirt with regard to energy?
Um, well, one, he's needs to do a lot more for the mega charging, supercharging stations. And we're using up the spare energy capacity. So they have to start building a lot more um, new power with each of one of those things. He needs new power for the AI data centers that they're building, right? So 200 megapacks for Memphis 1. He'll need to have more megapacks for the other ones, especially as they have issues getting more natural gas power. Um, so he's going to have to take over that, as we scale up because natural gas won't be able to cut it much. It'll still be used, but
Sure.
it's incrementally be tougher and tougher to do stuff with that. So they have to do more. So both of those things of getting 20% more for semi trucks for mega charging, and then another 10% or 5% or they got of overall US energy for Robotaxi. And then AI data centers adding another 20%. They'll have to have a lot of that power. So, irregardless of whatever the master plan says, the demand that the Tesla and XAI companies need means that they need to take ownership of their energy future, right? For those major areas, which they will be, responsible for. So
Mhm.
that means a mega pack that has more of the grid built into it, so you can just plop them down. More solar coming in, so they will have to do it. And whatever the pages related to a master plan, it's more about how much do they need and when do they need it and how fast can they build it. Because if they can't depend upon a supplier to do it for them, then they need to do it. And that means changing the megapack side, changing electronics, and then some mass production of solar. So they're going to start building, I think in September, a 500-acre solar facility at Memphis too,
Right.
right? For the XAI data center. So um, and that means that, if for every data center that they build, so Colossus one, Colossus two, for Tesla, sorry, for XAI, and
Mhm.
then what's the name um,
Oh,
of the
Cortex.
Cortex? Yeah, Cortex one, Cortex two. If you start needing like a square mile of solar for each one of those things, that alone would start being a major thing. And then 3 years down the road, you could be at the scale of the 100 square mile places in China that they're dumping into Mongolia. So they will have to take that over, and it will look something like that. It'll be major. And then if they're already doing that for themselves, then they should be making scale mass production for others as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. How are you seeing the situation in Austin right now? We've had all kinds of announcements since I last had you on the show.
Mhm.
We had announcements about how good the FSD 14 is going to
14
be,
years.
2 to 3 times better than human. We've had announcements with regard to expanding the territory. We've had announcements saying that we've got 17 cars on the road now instead of 11 or 12. But what do you think? You know, is this going to continue to be a super slow build until it isn't? Or do you think that we'll see some bigger leaps in the future before we get to the giant leap?
Um, The leap I'm expecting in September, because Elon talked about getting to 100 cars as soon as possible.
Hmm. I didn't
So
know that.
he said that for California, and I presume also for Austin. So my, I think that by the end of September, with FSD 14, that you should have at least 100 vehicles in Austin, 100 vehicles in California. But the one in California, in the Bay Area, they would be supervised because of the nature of what they're
Right.
doing. They have someone in the driver's seat, and then they also would have similar numbers. They have similar numbers for their employee driving system. So they drive their employees in Austin and in California. So I think that right now, including the drive that they're doing for employees, which I presume is still happening, then we could be at 200, 300 vehicles right now for, like 17 or whatever, increase by 50% for the main Austin commercial run, 10, 15 or whatever for the California one. But we have like another 200, 300 for the employee driving
I
is,
see.
is what I think could be possible. So then adding a comparable size, 200 for employees, 200 for commercial by the end of the month is not that big of an increase. It's not like going from like 20 to 200, right? So they could get to that 400 number. And if FSD 14 is as good as they're promising and it doesn't take as long to shake out. They could wait for another month, or two while they test it around. But then by the end of the year, I'm thinking, you know, 2,000 some vehicles past Waymo is certainly something I expect to have happen.
Yeah, well, if you're going to, if he says we're going to be if we're going to be giving service to half the population of the United States, yeah, I don't think you're going to do that with 1,000 cars or 800 cars.
Well, I think that's, if they're doing it via, I'm like if I'm serving the 1 million people in Austin right now
15
with,
cars.
with the 17 vehicles, and because I'm in the area and they could, in theory, call a car. Because right now they can go from the airport to, in theory, go to the airport, although I can't really book the ride. But the service area includes the airport, 170 square miles. So it's supposedly had a million people. So if you did that with 17 people, 17 cars or 20 cars, then you could say you did it. So it's a not a firm commitment that Elon was making. It was too wide and sweeping a statement.
Oh, okay. All right. So you think that there's I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that we would be, um, it's kind of like it's kind of like a YouTube video or a headline in Fortune magazine that doesn't really deliver when you get into the details of the article. So I
Right.
think if we had, seven major cities with 15 vehicles in each city, people would just kind of laugh, they'd have to snicker behind their hand about that being servicing half the population.
Right. Right. But if you're talking about it, you're in each state, it's the one drop of blood kind of thing. It's just, it. I don't like that kind of thing, but they're not moving at the pace where, okay, I've opened it up to everyone, right?
Right.
So in the next 2 months, supposedly they got, going to open it up to everyone. Elon has talked about that, right?
Right.
So that means no invitation. So then you would need at least 2 vehicles per square mile,
Okay.
right? And then 5 vehicles to properly without bad wait times, right? So you're 170 square miles now in Austin.
Mhm.
So that means if you're not at 350 vehicles,
You can't go public.
you can go public and open it up, and then you really to do a proper job, you should be at like 1,000 or 1,500,
I see.
right? So when they do that, then I will say they're opened up to half the population in the United States is at 100,000 vehicles, right? Which they can do. Like, the Texas production there is such that they could, they're including the factory, right? They can make, 50,000 vehicles and roll them off and do whatever. So they can get to 50,000 vehicles if it just
Sure.
works.
Sure. Right.
So then you can get to huge numbers. You can serve all of Texas. They're permitted to serve all of Texas, right?
Right.
So in theory, if they start doing that, 1,000 vehicles serve all of Austin by the end of, by the middle of October. And then I'm rolling out to all of Texas. I start doing some expansions, blah, blah, blah. And then, I do that. I'm also huge in California, Florida, and stuff like that. Then um, I still don't see them getting to the 2 to 5 vehicles for every location that they pop into, without a 1 month, 2 month period. Um,
So you
but
would you would anticipate that even without regulators, that they would want to have they would want to continue to test the territory each and every time, at least for a while. Put a few out in
yeah,
the territory, test them for a while, invite only for a while, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe even a
yeah,
maybe
maybe short of a month or a few weeks,
I
but they
see.
could do that, right?
And then
Until maybe the end of this year,
I see.
right? But after they pull the safety monitors
Right.
and they open it up to over 1,000 vehicles in Austin, right?
Mhm.
Then yeah, then it's like, okay, I'm no longer dipping my toe. I'm putting my leg. I'm going out. He's talking about dipping the toe in.
I know.
So once you're there, then we're looking at 1,000 vehicles. Once you have over 1,000 vehicles in Austin, then you can easily pop in 1,000 vehicles anywhere else, right? So you can easily get everywhere else to be as big as Austin in a month after you start doing it, right? So that means the scale of Austin is, I think, a limiting number as to how big you get anywhere else.
All right. So yesterday night we had a beautiful, incredible, from a photography standpoint, from a video standpoint. What a launch.
Yeah.
Anybody that hasn't watched the videos from that launch and from the execution,
SpaceX Starship 10. Yeah.
every part of it, Starship 10, to the conclusion in the Indian Ocean. I mean, if you haven't watched it, go back and take a look because it is spectacular just from a visual, just it's art, it's almost art. Uh,
Yeah, I've had about like 5 articles about the SpaceX thing. I've covered that in detail from
okay,
yesterday.
well, I noticed you had a couple. So let me know, what are you thinking about right now with regard to everything that happened yesterday on Starship?
So one, it's monumental because Starship now has the capability to deliver payload to space cheaper than the Falcon 9. The Falcon 9, even though you're reusing the first stage, I can reuse nothing from the Starship. I can lose the booster. I can lose the Starship. But because I can take up 100 tons or 200 tons of payload, if I load it up, right?
Mhm.
That means that it's at like 600 to 500 bucks per kilogram to go to orbit with that. And they did to push out the dummy satellites. So they can push out real satellites by just going up there. So one, it's now a step forward in terms of like, half that cost, which was a huge leap from like Falcon 9 going to reuse the thing. So that's a really huge level. And they've done three for three reusing the booster when they tried.
Right.
They didn't try all the time, but they've
Right.
gone three for three.
Right.
So then if I can reuse the booster, that means 80% of the reuse is there. Because I only have 33 engines in the booster, I got six in the upper stage, right? So I'm only losing that little bit, which is um, proportionally less than when I lose the second stage and part of the top stage
Sure, sure, sure. Makes total sense.
of the Falcon 9, right?
Yeah.
So then that gets us down to like $100 a kilogram. So we're 10 times cheaper, really, or at least five times the $200 per kilogram, probably that. So that economic change for us delivering payloads to space is huge. Um, they won't fully do that for the next few launches because they'll do another semi-test launch. They could push out live satellites next time because now the reason they weren't going to orbit was because they were wanted to prove they could relight the upper stage engine to
Right.
deorbit. They didn't want to like, get into orbit
Right.
and then not be able to get out of orbit, without blowing up or doing something crazy, right? So now that they've proved that because they relit the engine and landed, they can now go to orbit for the next one, which is also the same version 2 Starship and booster.
Right.
So then they could push out a few satellites, maybe test satellites of the version 3 live, that they would, push out the first two that are test, run some tests on them, do whatever they need to do, and then be ready to start pushing out real commercial ones later. But then there would be another pause as they go for version 3 booster and Starship in the flight 12, so the one after this next one. And then they could go back then for flight 13, if things went well, or flight 14 with a nearly full load of those satellites, which is huge because each launch of 60 satellites that are version 3 that are larger, like 60-meter across, they'd be like the solar on that would be as wide as the solar on the International Space Station.
Wow.
Six or seven of them would have the same kind of area as the space station, so just huge. And launch 60 of them, so 10 times the area square meter of stuff for the version 3. Um, each one has five times the bandwidth of a version 2 mini. You'd be launching three times as many. You could be launching 15, 20 times as much bandwidth as the one load of a Falcon 9, just in one launch. And also the new capability being bigger, more antenna would mean better service direct to cell phone, which they started out doing. So this is hugely economically transformable for SpaceX. Next year,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a minute. Do I remember you telling me that literally they could use the Starship in the future, outfitted in a certain way, and it could be the next International Space Station? Is that
Yes, yes. The cubic meter area volume is about 1,000 cubic meters for the International Space Station. A lot of it in tight tunnels and hallways, and they could have that same volume in
one Starship?
one Starship. Especially because they lengthened it. They lengthened it, so you can have like 1,200 or something
So you
cubic
could
meters.
you could either send it up and have it just sit there for 3 months while they did their experiments and whatever, and then have it come back,
Yeah.
or you could send it up and have trips back and forth to like they do now if they want to if they don't want to risk bringing it back. I don't know. Yeah. So
Right.
anyway, it's
Right. So this last launch proved the economic success of Starship.
yeah.
It's guaranteed. It shows that SpaceX will have five times as much revenue by the end of next year because they'll launch so much more capacity. They'll be able to go from 6 million customers up to 25 to 50 million customers because they have so much more bandwidth. It's just a matter of making more dishes and they'll have more capability on the direct to cell phone stuff. Something else we'll be looking at early in 2026 is putting up two at a time. You have two starships at the same time, and they'll transfer fuel between them
Oh, yeah.
because they need to prove that out for sending things to the moon or sending an unmanned ship to Mars. They'll need to do like 8 refuelings or something like that to get a full tank to go to Mars. And you need a similar number of refuelings to send your ship to the moon. So they want to, for Artemis 3, so we've already done Artemis 1, a flyby unmanned to the moon. Artemis 2 would not involve SpaceX. Artemis 3 is you send SLS and an Orion capsule with astronauts in it. SpaceX would send up Starship, refuel it a bunch, send that to the moon, and then that would be one with landing legs that would then transfer the crew and then land them onto the moon. So, um, although I think they may only do some orbiting thing, I think for Artemis 3. I'm not sure if they're going straight to landing, but it's something that's required late 2026 or 2027, probably 2027, right? So those refuelings will become very, very common. We'll see that a lot.
Okay.
So we'll see a lot of um, version 3 satellite deployments, and we'll see like they want to get to weekly cadence. So we could see like 40 launches of Starship next year.
Um,
They have the capacity by adding new launch towers in Florida, in the Cape. I think they're adding, converting two there. They have the two in Texas. I think they were saying that they could get to 120 launch capacity. I think they're approved for that, but in
right.
theory, with all those launch towers, they could do that many. So that would be over two launches a week when they get to that cadence.
And the fueling ships would also be something that they go up once they're empty, they come back, they land, you refuel them, send them back up
Right,
to sit there and wait for that. Okay. All right. Very
right,
cool.
right,
So, all right. And then of course, obviously we were talking, I think Elon said maybe 3 launches from now or 4 launches from now, they'll try to land the ship.
right, right. And now that looks very good that they, did the soft landing of the Starship. I think they probably want to do two more soft landings, or at least one more, and then no, probably two more. So then maybe December or January they try to land the ship.
Holy cow. All right. So was there anything else on Starship that on your list of things that you were
Yeah, so just being able to save the booster and
Mhm,
then can launch payload now
mhm.
going forward. Economic success, 10 times cheaper. When they get Starship landing next year, I'm fully expecting that to happen now. That would mean cost to orbit drop to nearly 100 times, down to like toward $10 per kilogram. Maybe like is that $20 per kilogram from 1,000. So it's as cheap as many
Sending a package by FedEx. Yeah.
sending back to my FedEx. Yeah, which I've said before was that they can have a version where they go sell launch tower to launch tower North America, Europe, Asia, and then you gather packages, say from around the United States, send it to some location inside the United States, Arizona or something like that, and then you would then launch from there to a
Hong
some
Kong
place
or yeah, yeah.
some place remote
Oh,
in Asia, away from things, right?
huh?
And then it would then distribute package there, so they can save 12 hours, right?
Gotcha.
If it's like, well, you can save like at least 6 or 9, 3 hours to get your packages into central location, launch it for an hour, redistribute 6 hours. So then instead of 12 hours, you'd save 5 hours or more by doing this redistributed packaging.
And be
Um,
cheap.
and be cheaper.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
be
yeah,
cheaper.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you create a new, overnight international or twice a day international kind of service.
All right. Let's switch to AI because I don't know, you and me and a couple of guys are writing a book
Mm.
about AI, and Elon said the other day that Google is winning the AI race because of their massive, massive compute and because of some of their other capabilities in terms of storage. But that when X passes them, and X will, that it'll pass them a lot, and they'll never look back. So what do you? I know that you've been paying very close attention to this entire story. So
Mhm.
what do you think Elon is talking about in terms of the current status of the race?
So in terms of a single uh, coherent data center that's using this one memory, um, XAI has the most from that. They have 230,000 chips in Memphis 1, mix of H100s, H100s, and B200s, only a few B200s. And then Memphis 2 has more B200s, at least 130,000. And then they were getting some scaling up to 550,000 pretty soon. Unclear as exactly when. But that 550,000 B200s would be the equivalent of 2.5 to 3 million H100s. So the current Memphis one is 400,000 equivalent H100s. So there'll be about 6 to 8 times more compute from that. Um, so that will be hugely capability that no one else is matching anytime soon. Although there's talk of 400,000 chips at the end of next year by some of them, but it'll be in different data centers. I think also the Google ones are different data centers. So they
Right.
have millions of their TPUs, but in many, many different locations
Mhm.
doing that. So, but they're not coherent.
Right.
So that's still good for them. It can still split up the tasks and do things.
Sure.
And then they have really great data with all the Google search and with YouTube. Um, but the compute advantage should be the difference between a GPT-2 and a GPT-3, or at least a GPT-3 and GPT-4 for OpenAI, in terms of the compute advantage of these XAI systems. So it should be substantially better. And so then if everything else being equal, which everything is not equal yet, then, but it should be happening with Grok 4.2 and Grok 5. Grok 4.2 releasing in a few weeks, 2 weeks maybe, and then Grok 5 in by the end of the year, using those mostly 500,000 B200s, and then a 1 million GPU B200, B300 system uh, for Grok 6 training next year. That would be about 5 million to 8 million H100 equivalents. So that then so we'll see how much that compute advantage does, how much it pulls away. If Grok 4.2 can get to the top of the leaderboard um, this next time, that would be indicating that the algorithmic and data and other advantages the other guys have has been overcome. So that would be a huge thing.
What are we going to do about the leaderboard? We're getting to close to 100% on all the KPI,
Benchmarks, yeah,
yeah, all the
right.
benchmarks.
The benchmark is becoming less and less important because they're all getting
Right.
to get
Maxed out.
answered. So then it's I actually have to use it, right? So then it's a question of like, is my coding better? Is can it do more for me as an agent or something like that? Like, how many more tasks am I doing? How much would that increase my productivity? Um, how to measure that? We have to come up with new ways to do that.
Okay, so Andre Karpathy said today we've gone from information for training, for pre-training. We just needed lots and lots of information to do pre-training. Then we needed conversations for the supervised fine-tuning. But he says now we're going to need, for reinforcement learning, we need environments. Seems like the fact that we now need environments gives Elon a massive advantage. And where maybe up till now, I look at Tesla and I say, boy, they sure need XAI to provide them with the LLM side. It might flip now to where XAI is reliant on Cortex to give them the environments.
Yeah, the physical world AI of Tesla, being able to put it out to millions of vehicles, that is where they would have an enduring advantage in terms of scaled inference and deployment at the edge and all those kinds of things. Um, so yeah, that is the one-two punch of XAI and Tesla, and that's getting those more closely connected at the annual meeting. With some cross-share ownership would be a good thing to have.
So I was listening to Diamandis today. I'll never be able to pronounce his name. I need to just say it 15,000 times.
Mhm.
You write it on the chalkboard. I don't know. Anyway, so his crew today, they were talking and they said that a potential place to go for content is to go back to as many as they can to the original data for like every experiment that's been done in a lab the last 100 years.
Mhm.
Get all the original data, put
Mhm.
it back through again, because the analysis of the data then without AI would be nothing compared to the potential for the way that the AI would see it today, and also in light of additional discoveries that have happened since. And so,
Right. So I think a lot of that old data is messy, probably wasn't recorded. Certainly can see a lot of things recorded on computer and in files from 2000 onwards after you have the internet and have a lot of abundant memory.
right,
But definitely anything before that would be,
not that great.
crude. It'd be like, you're looking at scanning some paper files or something like that. It wouldn't be uh, in depth. You certainly can look through the appendix of things to
Right.
get some more raw data. Um, so I'm not sure how good that data would help. Um, it's worthwhile just in case you missed something, or it could be um, indicating promising avenues to look down. But then there's, I think, a lot of things where, because of the tribalism of people, that there's all the anomalous data of the cold fusion, low energy nuclear reactions, where there seemingly was more heat. So those things need to be looked at, because they're potentially huge things that they said we refuse to look at this thing, right?
Right.
Even though maybe there's something there, right? So having it be able to go through and do a thorough job looking at things where people maybe didn't want to look, um, is a more clear area for result. But getting metadata sets around biology and human medical trials. I think we'll need to just upgrade all of our sensors and materials and be able to just go through it faster. We can look at the old papers and then just redo all the work in a more thorough way. I think redoing it versus just trying to relook at some old measurements, because who knows how good those measurements were.
Okay. All right. Switching back to the economy, the biggest news of the last few days has all been around Lisa Cook. And I saw that you specifically went and did some research on the whole mortgage fraud thing.
Mhm.
Lisa Cook continues to say she ain't going, she's not leaving.
Mhm.
I saw where, oh, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, I saw where one person said today that there's been other Fed governors and other Fed presidents who've had much more minor issues of ethics or of things that they've done where they have resigned in disgrace. Well, maybe not in disgrace, but they've resigned because of these minor blips, because it's such a critical thing for them to be beyond reproach.
Mhm.
You found what when you, well, just tell me what you're thinking about Lisa Cook and the Fed right now.
So the thing that she's supposedly done is that she has more than one mortgage where she has one other primary residence. So primary residence means you only have one house at the primary residence. You can't have two houses at your primary residence. So you can't have mortgages, multiple mortgages where you say one the primary residence. And when people do that and they get caught, some audit, some home thing, whatever, finds that they do that, then the banks say, well, one, you have to pay off the loan or you pay a penalty, and then you can, and people have been um, sent to jail for that in California, in New York, et cetera. Um, and so thousands of people have gone to jail for that offense. But it seems that for some reason, when you try to hold political people accountable, then they say, hey, you catching me for doing something which is clearly not
Yeah.
legal. If I have two mortgages with primary residence, because I only have one, right? Then I clearly did violate that. So once you prove that, then a normal person would end up going to jail, or at least paying a fine, some, at least the financial end of it. So I don't get where people say, okay, because I'm a political person, I'm above the law, and so you can't hold me accountable for this kind of thing.
Yeah, and because it was some kind of a gotcha, because
Yeah.
somehow we went out. It turns out, I know on the one for Tish there
Mm.
in New York, I know it wasn't the government at all that found out about it. It was a private citizen that did the research and was able to find it out and then turned the information over. I don't know. I think the Lisa Cook, I thought that was somebody from the federal government, but not somebody like from the political side. It was just somebody in the SEC or something that was doing some checking and
Right.
into it, I think. But yeah, so anyway, it seems. But in the meantime, it seems as if the market is starting to suggest that they're pretty sure that Trump is going to get his way, that we're going to get some reductions in the interest rates, and finally the bond yields are coming down a little bit today. We're
Mm.
under 4.25 again. Um, we also have um, who was it? Oh no, man, what's wrong with my memory right now? We also have the possibility that the current spread on the mortgage rates is higher than it normally is compared to the Fed the 10-year and compared to inflation rates. So maybe we could get back down under 6% in the near term on mortgages. I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be a huge boost to real estate. Yeah. So I think that should happen.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we managed. See there, we did it. We got done
Yeah.
in less than 3 hours. But
Yeah.
then I think both of us could have gone on for a lot longer if we
Mhm.
really wanted to. Okay, let's take a look and see if Tesla is continuing to fight with this. No, it's selling off more. It's down. But it's hardly. Yeah, I mean, it's really only another little over a point. In fact, almost exactly 1 percentage point in the after hours down. $3.46 in the after hours. So that's not really significant when you think about how Tesla normally moves.
Right.
And then what about Nvidia just for fun?
Totally flat. So nothing Jensen's saying is having any effect, negative or down. It's totally flat since you've been talking.
Okay, okay, yeah, it's down about 3%
Yeah.
in the after hours after being zero in the regular time. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at those bonds, see if they're well, actually I don't think there would have been any change, but we'll take a look anyway. Um, Okay, come on now, show up here. There we go. All right, so yeah, we're sitting at 4.238, which I just said. So that's super positive. I had heard that oil that we were having a lot of drawdowns in the United States, but oil prices apparently are going down in the pre-market. So I don't know. I can't figure. I know they're thinking that Russian oil might be coming. They're starting to believe that maybe this is going to end
Hmm.
in the Ukraine, and so Russian oil might be coming back on the market, and so that seems to be pushing down on oh, there. That's interesting. Well, anyway, I'm looking at a headline. I'm sorry, I get distracted by
Yeah.
the headlines.
Yeah.
But we're sitting at 63.79, which is certainly good for inflation, certainly good for what we're trying to do. Gold hanging out right there at all-time high,
Hmm.
449.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts on gold's directionality in the future? Is it going to keep going up? I mean, I think it's surprising everybody that it's still going up.
Well, the US hasn't gotten to, balanced budgets. You have large deficits, and even with DOGE and with increased tariff revenues and that kind of thing, we're still looking at, $1.9 trillion deficit. I think we're at 1.6 cumulative right now, and we have three
Mm.
more months in the fiscal year. So getting to 1.9 seems likely,
Mhm.
um, which we didn't blow up higher, so that's a good thing. And that's with the tax cuts. But next year, maybe we get down to fiscal year 2026, get down to 1.5 trillion instead of the projected 1.7, with more tariffs and this kind of stuff. Um, so getting to 1 trillion is kind of the 3% 333 thing, the best I'm talking about.
Yep, yep.
3% GDP, 3% of GDP deficit. So 3% GDP growth, 3% deficit. So we haven't hit the growth number, and we haven't got the deficit down to 3% of GDP, which would be about $1 trillion if you had a $33 trillion economy. And then 3% more, 3 million barrels of oil
Right.
more per year. So all the things have to happen. I don't think they'll happen until 2027, 2028, if we're lucky. And then the getting Russia back in, yes, that helps. I think more on natural gas and on food prices. Oil production would probably be offset by the Middle East not pumping as much
Mm.
in order to accommodate Russia back into the market.
So I always try to bring any information I can that I believe is arbitrageable. And this is one that nobody's going to pay any attention to. So I'm breaking news here. Those of you who are still here at the end are going to get the benefit. Not to say I will never mention it again, but it's not a possibility. It is a 100% certain. You can count on this. The first quarter GDP and into the second quarter GDP next year is going to be blowout quarters because the folks are going to get ginormous income tax refunds,
Mhm.
way bigger than they're expecting,
Mhm.
way bigger than anybody's planning for, because all these tax cuts, it's not being taken out of your pay. I mean, it's not showing up in your paycheck because
Mhm.
they haven't changed any of the numbers in terms of how the employers determine how much to take out of your paycheck. So they're sucking that money out of your paycheck just like normal, and it's going to come all back in February, March, and April of next year. It's going to be a very, very big deal. So that's something you can arbitrage for next year.
That was really good. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
All right. Then we've got Bitcoin. All right, here we go. All right, so here's what I want to know. Tom says, Tom Lee, of course, I've all of a sudden become a huge fan. Tom Lee says that he's all about Ether. So I'm going to start reporting Ether every day.
Mhm.
So Ether is actually down a little bit, 1% in for the day. Bitcoin is up a little bit, 111,446. What are you thinking about all that now that Tom I think you're a big fan of Tom also.
Yeah, I think he did thorough research, and Ethereum has been, you know, below its all-time highs for might be many years, maybe close to a decade. And while Bitcoin was down, but then broke to multiple all-time highs, like several orders of magnitude more. I think it was down around 40,000 Bitcoin and 4,000 Ethereum back in the day. So now Ethereum is back to near 5,000, got to all-time highs, while Bitcoin's at 120,000. So a 3x move. So Ethereum to catch back up and to become a major thing, because always thought that it would be. That if Tom Lee says it's finally happening, then I would expect he's right and needs to be researched.
All right, so I think he's thinking that Ethereum goes 10x, where Bitcoin might go 10x also to $1 million a share, but maybe it's a little less likely that so the Ethereum would be more likely to 10x in the near term. All right.
And then something that Tom said a few years ago, back when I think Bitcoin was at $5,000,
Yeah.
was that everyone should have 1 to 2% of their portfolio in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which, if you did, you would have
Rich.
no, you would have practically doubled your portfolio, because you'd have so much Bitcoin.
Just from the
So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, all right. So yeah, we all wish that we'd had one or
But
two.
now he's saying, maybe
You can do it
go
again. Yeah.
2% for Ethereum. Okay.
Exactly. All right. The equities right now are barely moving. They're barely moving slightly in the red. So down 0.02 for the Dow, down 0.28 for S&P, and down 0.46 for the NASDAQ. That's probably all Nvidia and Tesla. But anyway,
Okay.
so we'll see how all of that plays out in the morning.
Okay.
Any last thoughts before we say goodnight?
No, just it's looking good for Tesla, XAI. I think Nvidia is going to do fine, Ethereum. So it's everything that we covered, very useful for everyone.
Very useful. Absolutely. And very fun.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, Brian, as always, for coming on. And to everybody out there, it's been great talking to you.